Welcome to Drawsh Studio. Today we will learn about art and why it matters. Let's get started. To understand why art matters, we first have to ask, what is art? Each of us can think of things we might consider art and things we might not. And that's fine. On a personal level, art is whatever you decide it is. While your personal opinion is important and a good starting point, it doesn't help us with the larger definition of what art is. For centuries, artists and critics have made claims about what should and what shouldn't be considered art. Academic artists of the 19th century believed art could only be highly rendered images about the figure or nature and explore ideals of the classical world, history, mythology, or the exotic. Anything else wasn't truly art. When other artists of the time did something radical, like make work about people living in that age, critics became enraged. Gustave Courbet made a painting of the funeral of his great uncle, showing a current event with the people of the day, not as some historical or heroic allegory. Critics responded to this by saying he was intentionally creating a cult of ugliness. To our modern eye, these two paintings don't seem radically different in their execution, but to the people of the day, it was an artistic revolution. Artists kept breaking boundaries of what subjects and mediums could be considered art. The medium is the material artists use to create their work, like oil paint or watercolor or ceramic. If you're a skeptic, you might at this point be asking, wait, is that just an old urinal? That can't be art. When Marcel Duchamp put his ready-made urinal in a gallery, he did so to make people think about the nature of art and society as a whole. He was artfully presenting an object to provoke thought and dialogue. It's because of artists and ideas like this that lead us to a broader, impersonal definition of art. Now, art is any presentation of a subject or idea. This doesn't mean you have to like everything that is considered art, and we will all have our own personal preferences. But hopefully, you can begin to understand and appreciate art of all kinds, in the context and the spirit they were created in. Now that we can see art can be anything, the next question is, why does art matter? Art surrounds us at all times. It is woven throughout our culture and rituals. It is how we commemorate and comment. It is how we decorate and express ourselves. And it is our history. Art gives a visual expression to all aspects of the human experience, from our lowest instincts to our most profound triumphs. Let's look specifically at the different ways art impacts us. Art is fundamental to culture. The monuments, statues, and other artworks we erect define the cultural values and ideals of the people who live there. Statue of Liberty is a great example of this. It was proposed by the French political thinker Edward de La Boulaye as a gift from the French to the United States in 1886. La Boulaye supported American democracy and the abolition movement in the US and hoped that the statue would inspire France to do the same. It depicts the Roman goddess of liberty wearing a goddess robe and a nimbus, or a halo of sun rays showing her divinity. She holds up a torch, which symbolizes the enlightenment needed for freedom. She also holds a tablet marking the signing of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. At Liberty's feet, we see an axe head and a broken shackle, symbolizing the abolition of slavery and the pursuit of freedom. This is also the first sight 12 million immigrants would have seen when they entered the U.S. through Ellis Island. While Americans' relationship with the Statue of Liberty has been complex, she towers over us as an icon of the ideals of American freedom and of the immigration that built our country. Art can be a way we express ideas that transcend words, and this is why nearly all religions or spiritual belief systems use art to visually represent their ideas. This gives believers a tangible way to interact and connect with the spiritual. Buddhist sand mandalas are not just a beautiful expression, but a ritual act in themselves. The word mandala means container of essence, so they act as visual symbols that contain the spiritual essence of the ritual. Monks carefully plan the mandala using specific symbols, and then use long funnels to carefully drop colored sand into the symbolic patterns. These complex sand paintings can take up to a week to complete. The artwork itself is an act of meditation, and during the process they chant, pray, and imbue the work with positive energy. Every element, from the colors to the shapes, have a symbolic meaning. When the work is complete, they wipe away the sand, blending all of the colors together. This act symbolizes the Buddhist philosophy of the impermanence of all things, and this reinforces the idea of limiting attachments. The sand is collected in a container and wrapped in silk and given out as a reminder of the ritual. Humans commemorate important events and people. Graveyards are full of visual markers for those we have loved and lost, and we create monuments to wars, tragedies, and triumphs to always remember them. When we commemorate these things, it gives them significance, which in turn gives our own lives significance. If those things matter, then so do we. The Taj Mahal is an incredible example of this kind of commemoration. It was created by the Mughal ruler Shah Jahan as a tomb for his favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal, who died giving birth to their 14th child. The main tomb is only part of the massive 4-part garden complex meant to resemble the description of paradise from the Quran. Every aspect of the design is meant to feel sacred and otherworldly, employing white marble and beautiful inlay carvings of complex geometry, floral motifs, and writings from the Quran. His love for Mumtaz was so strong that he nearly bankrupted his country, employing over 20,000 artisans to build and decorate a tomb to commemorate her. Art also allows us to understand complex messages in a split second. This is why many artists use their work to create commentary about the world around them. The artist, named Above, commented on homelessness in his work, Giving to the Poor. Above is a street artist who passed by this homeless woman begging on a daily basis and was struck by the contrast of people lining up to withdraw money from the nearby ATM. This economic disparity prompted him to illegally create his work in this location. It shows a masked bandit stealing from the rich to give to the poor, referencing the fictional hero Robin Hood. By painting the stencil in this spot, he involves the actual people that inspired the piece, making them part of the work. This makes the social commentary more personal and poignant. Even at the earliest stages, humans have decorated their world. And while there may be other significance to these artistic expressions, the decoration seems to add to their value or power. It is clear that human culture has an innate need to decorate. The Palace of Versailles is an example of decorating with unlimited resources and in the overwhelming style of the time. Every inch of this city-sized palace complex is decorated with expensive materials and labor-intensive craftsmanship. This is the king's bedchambers. In it, we see carved gold-cover sconces, expensive mirrors, ornate textiles, and paintings and sculptures from France's best artists. The aristocracy's reckless use of wealth in pursuit of things like decoration was one of the factors that caused the starving French peasants to rise up, leading to the French Revolution. The objects and items we build our world with are designed to please and delight us, and ultimately reflect our identity. Think about what's in your bedroom and the kinds of colors, textures, or images you surround your life with. Art can also be an important tool for self-expression. Franz Xavier Messerschmidt was a neoclassical sculptor who worked for a prestigious university and received commissions from the royal family. At the height of his success, personal and political forces began to work against him. He was turned down for a prestigious teaching appointment and eventually lost his commissions and his job at the university. Struggling with these setbacks and an undiagnosed mental illness, he left society and ended up living alone, making work for himself amidst increasing illness and delusions. During this time, he produced 69 bust sculptures he called headpieces. These works show himself or other people in extreme expressions that defy simple explanation. This work wasn't meant to be sold or displayed, but was made out of some inner need to express his anxieties and emotions. He was influenced by the pseudoscience of physiognomy, but also by the delusions of demons. Some of the portraits depict the demon of proportion that Messerschmidt said visited him at night and tortured him. When we look at these, though our situation might be different than Messerschmidt's, we can empathize with the range of emotions expressed. And this is the irony of self-expression. Despite our surface differences, humans have shared experiences that allow us to connect with ourselves through another person's expression. When we make work about ourselves, it can actually speak to a larger audience. Because art is so deeply woven throughout our human experience, it is directly influenced by the ideas and events of the time, so art becomes synonymous with our history. The radical pharaoh Akhenaten broke with thousands of years of Egyptian tradition and began worshipping one god. As he did this, he not only expressed these new beliefs in art, but he also had the artisans develop a new style of art. Along with the representations of the monotheistic sun god Aten, the figures took on elongated and strangely distorted proportions. This artistic and social coup was reverted back to Egyptian traditions after his death, but the artistic record bears witness to these tumultuous times. The Renaissance was a rebirth of humanist ideals that celebrated human knowledge, beauty, and potential. Raphael expressed ideals of reason and discourse in his work The School of Athens. It is a mural depicting the greatest philosophers of antiquity, headed by Plato and Aristotle. He used other famous artists of his age as the models for the great thinkers, like Leonardo da Vinci as Plato. But the subject matter is also expressed through the new techniques of realism, like linear perspective. This painting is a historic record to the people, ideas, and advancements of the era's progressive surge forward. During the 1930s, photojournalist Margaret Burke White traveled throughout the U.S. documenting the devastation from the Dust Bowl and other natural disasters. Her photographs are not just a record of history, but poignant works of art that make us empathize with the plight of the people of the time. This striking work shows victims of the Louisville flood standing in a government aid line in front of a billboard exclaiming, "America's highest standard of living." This expresses the stark contrast between the ideal of American life and the reality at the time, especially for minorities. No matter where you are from, art is woven throughout your life. Art is culture. Art is ritual. Art is commemoration. Art is commentary. Art is decoration. Art is self-expression. Art is history. Art is us, and that's why it matters. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to go to Drawsh.com for more information on these topics and many more. If you want to see more videos like this, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.